Welcome everyone to our fourth Tuesday of the month tradition study through the third legacy that District 15 sponsors. My name's Steve and I'm an alcoholic
Hi,
Hi,
Steve.
Steve.
and happy to be here tonight and uh, thank you all the visitors that we have for this meeting tonight. Thank you for attending. And I actually got a story about Tradition 9. I really enjoyed
That's surprising.
I really enjoyed reading about it today. And number one, it brought up that self centeredness in me is not entirely gone. Um, in a way, I'd never seen it before. And I'm trying to be serious too. And it came in the 12 and 12. I'm not just going to read Tradition 9 out of the book because everybody or anybody can do that. But in the second to the last paragraph, it says,
And where are you reading from?
page
Page
175,
175.
says,
Just yeah.
just as the aim of each AA member is personal sobriety. So I kind of stopped there mentally. Is that is that an aim of mine? Well, of course it is. I mean, I'm an AA member where that is a that that really resonates and is true. I want personal sobriety, and some of the proof I can offer. My statement is I've been going to meetings all along. I participate in the meetings. I participate in the structure of the meetings. Everything from I've cleaned ashtrays to been GSR, um, and every position in between. And I've worked with people over the years. And what I've heard, and it just made sense to me, is if I want personal sobriety, that's what you do. And it seems the experience of AA as a whole agrees with that. Um, then, but that was just, I stopped at a comma. Just as the aim of each AA member's personal sobriety, the aim of our services is to bring sobriety within the reach of all who want it. And I've never thought too much about that. And that's where, not in any kind of a self punishing way, it's just, geez, there's an area of self centeredness that I've never looked at before. Like, I think AA should be available, the program of AA should be available to everyone who wants it. But it's the aim of our service to bring sobriety within reach of all who want it. And what have I done there? Um, the ignorance I've had about step 9 and how powerful of a tradition it is, and what a cohesive tradition it is to our AA program. It's just it was never too interesting to me. And over the years, maybe not so much anymore, but for a lot of years, if somebody said, okay, this is the fourth Tuesday of the month, we're going to have a tradition study, it'd be like, oh, where else can I go? Which other, if the meeting breaks up? And if the meeting didn't break up, if it was just going to be a tradition study, since I had some experience in AA, I knew that very shortly by the second or at least third share, we're going to be way off topic anyway. So that would be okay. But to actually have a society, if one to refer to AA as that, which they do, that where they actually change from little organization to no organization, and to have it run worldwide for the most part successfully. uh, what a deal, and how that happens. I see more than ever now, and I've been in different home groups over the years, and currently I'm in one where service is a big deal. Everybody seems to be involved in service one way or another. But there's a lot of times I've been in groups where The group wasn't even interested in electing a GSR or any kind of a intergroup rep or any participating in any of the structured services. And I'm not saying the groups that don't do that aren't bad, because there's, I'm sure, fabulous sobriety in groups that don't participate in AA as a whole. In fact, I know there's been fabulous sobriety because I used to belong to some of those groups. That's my idea of a joke.
That's a joke. Yeah, we got that.
I get no response, but that's okay. But so what's been helpful to me just from today to see what Tradition 9 really does to keep the aim of our society straight and true, to bring sobriety within reach to all who want it. And how does it go about that we can well, now we Google AA and know a meeting to go to, or have a phone number we can call and the phone will get answered. And how does all that happen? It never occurred to me. I never thought about it before that it's the group members, the individual AA, and then as a group for the next step up, I guess, is they're interested in, or maybe I say a different word. It seems there's been enough gratitude for sobriety in Alcoholics Anonymous to see that it can be available for everyone, just like it was for all of us. And so it just became a lot more serious to me. And then I've also noticed, to me, how the traditions work together in ways that I haven't seen before. I'll just spend a minute with this, but I saw like 7, 8, and 9, a cohesiveness in those three traditions, starting with we're self-supporting, and we can create service boards and committees and steering committees and intergroups and all that. And for the most part, people will say that's a really good idea. That's a good idea for our society, for our organization. But then, do we want to fund them? And I suppose there was different times when I would think, hey, I put my buck in, and then later on it's, hey, I put my $2 in. And they, meaning the organization, the Society of Alcoholics Anonymous, should just figure it out. But what about if our contributions are voluntary, then what a responsibility we have when we create a committee or an intergroup or all these different structures. Because I think if we want it, there's a real responsibility to fund it and not fall back on the, hey, I put my buck in type thing. And it's, only in AA, we're okay if we don't put the buck in. We're okay if we never do. But if people didn't try and take the suggestions that are in our 12 steps and 12 traditions, would AA have survived all these years? Probably not. And then in reading more about Tradition 9, there's this section that you can find on Google, and I'm sure in other AA literature, that the underlying spiritual principle is discipline. Can you hear the dog? I hope not. Oh, it's just snoring his head off. Any rate,
Traditions put them to sleep.
yeah, that's a good one. and so how what do they mean by that, where they talk about the principle of discipline, which I already knew this because I had some Latin in high school, but from the root word disciple, which comes from the Latin word meaning that, which the main meaning in discipline is disciple, which is to follow or to be allowed to be guided. And how appropriate for Tradition 9 Like, am I willing? Is there enough humility still laying around where I can be guided by what already has been proven to work? And that's also what's so cool about AA. I don't know. I've kind of like had some talks and jokes and stuff with other people. Has there been a new problem in AA? Well, I suppose since the last problems may have been since the internet came about. But other than that, what group could possibly have a problem that somebody else hasn't had before? Uh, Done everything that didn't work and finally found something that did work. And that's a pretty cool part of our society is whether we're having an individual or a group meeting or problem or district or area or whatever geographic guidelines we want to put, the problem's already been had and the solution's already been found, and we can with a simple email to GSO, we can have our questions answered, because it's not going to be a new problem. At any rate, so that's a little bit of what I wanted to talk about on Tradition 9. It actually it moved me today, so I'm so glad I had a chance to look at it, because it is incredulous too, where not only, well, I said I wasn't going to read, so I guess that was maybe a lie. But in the very beginning, in the 12 and 12, it says when Tradition 9 was first written, it said that Alcoholics Anonymous needs the least possible organization. And what a great organization we belong to, because it says, in years since then, we've changed our mind about that. We belong to an organization which can change. And organizations that can change can stay strong. It says today we're able to say with assurance that Alcoholics Anonymous, AA as a whole, should never be organized at all. And so they open this tradition up with here's how it used to be, the least possible organization, and here's how it is now. No organization at all, should never be organized at all. And yet a worldwide society operates, well, I don't know if I want to say smoothly. It operates to where a guy can, we used to say pick up a phone book, but where he can Google AA and get help. And what I'm feeling called to do, which can be another uncomfortable topic, just for my own personal stuff, is like, do I support AA as a whole as much as I can? I've never been asked to do in AA what I can't do, but it seems in these times where many of us have experienced a different financial state than perhaps we've been used to, AA doesn't seem to be immune from that and the different parts of AA. And so, is there more I can do there? It's really common to hear at AA meetings, oh my God, AA saved my life. I do anything for AA. It's just the best thing that ever happened to me. And so, how about these contributions to keep our society going so the next guy will have somebody to answer the phone? Then maybe not so much appreciative. But we're alcoholics, and I think over the last however many 90 years or however long it's been, there's been generosity from enough AA members to counteract those that aren't able to be as generous, and things get done. Okay, that's enough out of me. So hey Lara, let's hear from you.
I just need to get pretzel.
Okay, my name's Lara. I'm an alcoholic.
I drove your husband out, but you're still here.
Yeah, that's all right. Wait, I just like to read. I always like to read the long form of the tradition. It doesn't get read very often. I know we read it at one of the groups that I attend regularly, and we read it at my home group, and I like reading the long form of the tradition. It's kind of long. Some long forms of the traditions are even shorter than the regular one, the one that's normally read at meetings. But the long form of traditions, tradition 9 is on page 191 of the 12 and 12. Each AA group needs the least possible organization. Rotating leadership is best. And that is something that they talk about in this tradition, is the rotating leadership and how hard it is to leave a service position empty if there's no one that's ready or willing to step up. That really, it's okay to have a service position sit vacant until somebody steps up, because rotation is such an important principle. It keeps people from, keeps people from thinking they know what's best, and having the ego run the service position rather than the spirit of service. The small group may elect its secretary, the large group its rotating committee, and the groups of a large metropolitan area their central or intergroup committee, which often employs a full-time secretary. The trustees of the General Service Board are, in effect, our AA General Service Committee. They are the custodians of our AA tradition and the receivers of voluntary AA contributions by which we maintain our AA General Service Office at New York. They are the custodians of our tradition. I appreciate that. I sort of feel like that is the job of an intergroup office as well. I could be wrong, but I've been accused of being wrong of that. But I feel like that is one of our jobs here, to adhere to and inform people of AA tradition, which is why we're having this tradition study all year. They are authorized by the groups to handle our overall public relations, and they guarantee the integrity of our principal newspaper, the AA Grapevine. All such representatives are to be guided by the spirit of service. For true leaders in AA are but trusted and experienced servants of the whole. They derive no real authority from their titles. They do not govern. Universal respect is the key to their usefulness. I really appreciate that. I've heard a number of times over the last few months that there's no leaders in Alcoholics Anonymous, and that is absolutely not true. It talks about it here in Tradition 9. It also talks about it at length in Concept 9. And Bill Wilson writes a wonderful essay about what it means to be an effective leader in Alcoholics Anonymous. But I do appreciate that universal respect is a key to their usefulness. So that kind of gets to the traditions checklist, right? And the traditions checklist, for those of you that don't know, is a Grapevine publication that you can Google it. It's Grapevine Traditions Checklist, or they're for sale down here at the intergroup office. But when my service sponsor took me through the traditions, we made sure to read the questions that accompany each tradition. And I won't read them all, but the first question is, do I try to boss things in AA? And so I think that this tradition is speaking directly against having any bosses, that there's rotation of service commitments, that there's no organization of a formal sense. There's guidelines, there's suggestions, there's suggestions on how to be. There's spiritual principles that we try to adhere to. Discipline and respect. No real authority, though, right? The spirit of service. So the ultimate thing that we try to adhere to when we're serving Alcoholics Anonymous. So, you know, I mean, as an alcoholic with a strong personality and kind of a power driving sort of personality, I have to remind myself, if I don't remind myself, I get reminded by other members of Alcoholics Anonymous, or some sort of spiritual law of some kind or another, that I am not in charge, that I am here to serve. And so I love this tradition and everything it talks about. And I concur this, like 7, 8, and 9, you just are sort of married together. Yeah, that's all I have. Thanks.
Well, thanks, Lara. And Nancy?
Hi, I'm Nancy, alcoholic, and I too had a really great experience with reviewing this tradition today. And it's another demonstration of the miracle of AA to me, where we have no government at least as the world is accustomed to, or any other corporation who has shareholders and a CEO and a president and employees. That type of structure is just not part of AA. Although I feel like every person in AA is a shareholder. But the purpose of a regular corporation is to, get money and return a profit to the shareholders. And of course, that is not, our mission, but our shareholders, meaning every one of us, we profit from the work of AA. And it's just, I think, miraculous that we don't that we have survived without the usual hierarchy in business. A few things that I had come across today, that the 12 traditions, besides stressing anonymity and a lack of governing hierarchy, establish AA as free to all, non-professional, unaffiliated, non-denominational, not interested in or connected to politics. And also that there's this lack of membership rules for someone who worked in a corporate office for many years. It's quite different there, that you can be expelled, you can be put on a performance improvement plan. That doesn't happen in AA. Life does its job with that. But we are here for a different purpose. As I was looking at this, I came across a question that somebody else asked online that just said, what's the corporate structure of AA? Someone asked that question, and here's what it said: a chairperson, a secretary, a program committee, a food committee, a treasurer, and a GSR. And there you have it, our corporate structure, which is much not what you would normally think. There's no election, there's no you're out. And like you mentioned, Stephen, there's no you're behind on your dues, you better pay up. There's none of that. And yet here we are. And that's something that Bill had said. I think it was in the Language of the Heart, where he wrote about the 9th tradition. And he said that, we're not organized as a corporation. but we are organized for service. We are organized for service. And that to me kind of said the whole thing, that our purpose is service, and we need some organization in order to be as effective as we can in that regard. So that uh, that is what I have. So thanks.
Well, thank you. And Steve?
I'm Steve, alcoholic.
Hi, Steve.
Well, the first thing that stands out to me when I think about Tradition 9 is, how much failure there was at organization throughout my life, that I just failed at, and I drank because I just had no organization. And then I come into AA, and all of a sudden, I feel like, well, now I got to get organized. And then they come in and say, hey, don't worry about it. You don't need to be organized, which in my years of being around, I have absolutely seen that come true. I mean, out of that paragraph that you started off with, Steve, there's 4 words in there that really stand out, that kind of make the whole thing to me mean something. And that is all who want it, in that last paragraph. And it's, to bring sobriety within reach for all who wants it. When I first came in, Tradition 9 didn't mean anything to me. I really didn't care much about the traditions. But fortunately, as time has gone on, I have realized, out of watching and being a part of the service structure, seeing the struggles that have happened within our own home group, and seeing the stuff that is, well, it just happens in AA. There's craziness. In my early sobriety, I watched I watched 2 guys pick up a guy and throw him out of the meeting. And it wasn't years later that those 2 guys were coming in brand new, and this guy had been there all that time, still sober. You just don't know who it is, and and nobody needs to be kicked out of AA. Sure, if you're disrupting a meeting, you need to be excused, or taken aside and talked to by somebody. I've had the honest to God pleasure or privilege of being able to do that, to take somebody out that was disruptive, and to be kind, and because I would want that same courtesy extended to me if I came into Alcoholics Anonymous and I was having a hard time. I don't want them to kick me out, because why would I come back? I barely got here to begin with. And now you want to kick me out because I'm having a hard day. That doesn't seem right to me. So, the fact that we are organized, like was said, for the service structure of Alcoholics Anonymous, that's what makes sense to me. That we are here for each other within this umbrella of what all of the wonderful people have been able to come up with before, and create this structure of non-organization. But to be so damn organized, there's this thing I heard about it. If you were to ask people what they thought a explosion costs, did it cause unity or disorganization? Most everybody would say disorganization, chaos, mayhem, all of those things. But then you take it a little bit further. In the Big Bang, what came out of that? We've been nothing but organized ever since. there's a service structure, and it's, from there, it's a spirit, it's a God of our understanding that helps us get there. And this, to me, this stuff just isn't going to work without an ultimate authority. And that's what I want to continue to, that's the organization that I need. We may not be organized and try to run things as a union, you know. This is a God program, whether, so you don't have to say God program because you don't want to say that too loud. But it's a program that has to be it has to be aligned with a power greater than ourselves, or we're doomed to fail. So and I think that Tradition 9 gives us that. We don't have to organize stuff ourselves. We just have to rely on a power greater than ourselves. And the service people that are that are sitting in the room, that are sitting in the intergroup, that show up to the assemblies and the conferences. That's how this thing works. We're God driven and God guided. And that's good enough for me.
Thank you, Steve. And Cindy.
Well, it was meant to be that I would follow you.
I follow them too, so.
Well, I just like this one part. I'm trying to figure out where to start, but it's it on page 174 in the 12 and 12 on Tradition 9. It says, unless each AA member follows to the best of his ability our suggested 12 steps to recovery, he almost certainly signs his own death warrant. His drunkenness and dissolution are not penalties inflicted by people in authority. They result from his personal disobedience to spiritual principles. The same stern threat applies to the group itself. Unless there is approximate conformity to AA's 12 traditions, the group too can deteriorate and die. So we of AA do obey spiritual principles first because we must, and ultimately because we love the kind of life such obedience brings. Great suffering and great love are AA's disciplinarians. We need no others. Beautiful.
Wow. Thank you for those couple of paragraphs. And I'm actually I'm able to witness kind of step 9, or sorry, Tradition 9, how it works in some places. Lara mentioned rotation, which they talk about in Tradition 9 too. I'm in a compared to Seattle right now as we speak, I'm in a kind of a small isolated community from Seattle. And so the AA community here is pretty small too, where everybody knows everybody and all that stuff. And there's a little clubhouse or meeting hall. And next month on the whiteboard, there's at least 10, maybe closer to 15 positions to be rotated. And that's not till next month, but AA, so people are worried about it now. And the sense is, why aren't people volunteering to step up and take a turn at rotation? And there was actually a proposed vote for the next business meeting was should we vote that the current, I'm just going to pick one of the positions up as secretary. There's multiple secretaries for different days that they're trying to rotate. But should it be part of the deal that the secretary has to stay on till a replacement comes? They can announce it every time, but it's a lot of groups have talked about that, and I know a lot of the people here because I've been coming to this group for a long time, and it's just fascinating. Like really, you're going to take a vote and say this volunteer position, you can't leave it at the end of your time. But that's the vote that was being tossed around, and nobody said it at this particular. It wasn't a business meeting. It was like just people talking after the regular meeting about how come nobody's volunteering to rotate. And I kept waiting for somebody to say, Steve, what do you think? It just didn't happen. But
Oh,
the meeting after the meeting, after that meeting, I'm with a real good friend of mine up here, and I said, "Gosh, if they would have asked me, here's what I would have said." He and I are just
Good for you,
walking.
Stephen.
He and I are just walking out to our cars. But you know, it could be a tremendous benefit to the group if people step down after faithfully fulfilling their turn at the at the head of the table. If nobody does, because if there's not enough interest to keep a just say a noon meeting going, then maybe it shouldn't be going. And sometimes that can be like a splash of cold water on a group if it just doesn't happen. I mean, people come to the meeting and they've been going to it maybe for years and years and years and decades, and there's nobody at the head of the table. And other groups have had that experience too, and sometimes they fold, and sometimes they come back stronger than ever. But it's a real it's cool being on the outside, not have some vested. That'll be next month's tradition 10. Any rate, I guess thank you all again for being here, and looking forward to next month, which will be Tuesday the what? Did
I
somebody
didn't say, you want me to look?
let's see,
it's gonna be on a Tuesday.
October 22nd.
October 22nd. Thank you, Nancy. And really, really looking forward to that. And why don't we close with the responsibility prayer? Who's responsible?
I
I
am
am
responsible
Responsible.
when anyone, anywhere,
Reaches out for help.
I want the hand of
AA,
always
to have, and for
that
that.
I am responsible.
You guys are the best.
Steve,
Thanks,
Steve.
Steve.
love you.
See you tomorrow.